today on the Dear Little Scribe show, we have some illustrious guests with us, and I think it's going to be a really great show. Our first guest up to bat is none other than Tim Cliff, who is now, I think, number 4 on the list, because last week or a couple of weeks ago when I invited him on the show, he was number 5. So I don't know what he did that was so special. Probably it was just agreeing to be on my show. I think the cosmos worked in your favor. So today's show, we have a couple of really great guests on. The first hour up to bat, we have Tim Cliff, who is a witness for Steam It. And not just any witness, but a top 4 witness, which is a pretty big deal. That does not I'm not saying that lightly. And then in the second hour, we have a guest by the name of Bethalia, and she is, for all intents and purposes, one of the coolest chicks on the platform. She just does so many things to curate and boost up the platform, and she's just kind of an awesome gal. So she's going to be on the second hour. And then in between the two, we'll have a little bit of a segment with the Welcome Wagon. If you guys have not heard of the Welcome Wagon, you will soon. It's just an awesome little enterprise. So I wanted to invite her on the show for just a few minutes to talk about what she's doing. And if you're here, either of you just give a little hello in the chat. Are we all hearing me? Oh, is my camera like too low? I remind you of a famous actress. Which one? I've heard some people say, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken. It's from like the 90s. I don't even know the name of her, but that's what I've heard. Okay, so without further ado, I think we're just going to jump right in. And by the way, everybody, if you want to see the live stream, I am over on steamstar.net, courtesy of Sir Cork, who is also a witness. And just to clear up a little confusion, we are not having a debate today. There is not a debate between Sir Cork and Tim. Okay, that'll be like in next week or the week after. Today we're just going to do a get to know you with Tim, because I think it's worth getting to know this guy. So it's cutting off the top of my head. The stream is, or what? Like, are you all not seeing my head? Oh yeah, it is kind of bad. Here, let me tilt it up. There, is that better? There we go. Is that better? Okay. So, let me open up my notes, because I want to make sure we cover some good ground here. Now, just as a preface for my interview with Tim Cliff today, I want to let you know this is not tech heavy and this is not debate heavy. This is just a kind of a friendly get to know you. So if I do have technical questions, it will be because like luck struck me, because I'm really not highly technical. We'll save that for the debate. Today we're doing a get to know you, but if you do have questions, drop them in the chat. And maybe we'll get to those too, okay? So let me pull up all my little questions. Hang on one second here. Okay, here we go. All right, so Tim Cliff, are you good? Are you here?
I'm here.
So should I just call you Tim?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, Tim. The first thing, and I think the most important thing that we need to discuss, is what the day in the life of Tim is like. Okay, are you ready for this?
Sure.
So what we need to know is, like, what is it like for you? Like, when you wake up, what do you do? Do you hit an alarm clock? Do you have like a cat lick your face? Do you just have the sun peer down on your brow and you just wake up to like birds chirping? What do you do when how early do you wake up and so forth?
So actually, my day has kind of been shifting recently. For the last 10 years, I've had a full-time position at a software development company in Minneapolis. So I'd basically wake up at around 7, go to work, and get home at around 6 o'clock at night. And then basically from the time I got home until the time I slept, including most of the time on the weekends, was spent doing a whole bunch of Steam-related stuff. And actually, within the past month, I've gotten to the point where I've been able to take enough money from my witness pay to comfortably quit my job. And so these days I'm actually doing STEAM related stuff more or less full time. So my hours are very strange. I mean, sometimes I've been up until 2 in the morning working on projects and then, sleep in a little bit the next day. Other days I've woken up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and just started pretty early. I'd say on an average day, I probably wake up around 9 or 9:30 and head downstairs into my office and basically just start working on projects.
That's exactly what I wanted to know because I know that you had this tech job for 10 years, 10 plus years, and you worked your way up into management. I mean, that was not an easy position, and you did your coding and you did your time and you got a degree in computer science at University of Minnesota, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And I think you know cuz we talked about this before the show that you and I have something in common. Do you remember what that is?
I'm blanking.
It's that maybe I didn't tell you this. My two of my siblings attended the university that you attended at the same time that you attended it. So you might have even crossed paths and basically that makes me famous adjacent, correct?
Well, that's pretty cool.
I know. They both in fact one of them was the captain of the swim team. The other one my brother ended up coaching. He was a head coach for the Edina swim team. So I know you mentioned Edina at one point. I don't know if that's where you live currently.
Oh, well, no, I don't live there currently, but that's actually where I went to high school.
Well, according to my siblings and my brother's wife, who also went to school there, it's just a dream. And we were always like, come on, get out of Minnesota and come back west. We miss you. And we could not, for the life and for the love, we could not pluck my family up from Minnesota to bring them out here because they just loved it so much. And I was like, what's gives? Like, what's the sell? And they said, this is how they put it. They said that the winters are so bleak that once people are able to come outside once it gets nice, they're just so happy to see each other that everyone's just like overly nice. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good way to put it.
So it's true. And the other thing is that it is just so beautiful with all of the lakes and the green, and it is super muggy and hot and humid, but kind of gorgeous. And you guys have the Mall of America, right?
We do.
Do you go there oft?
Probably about maybe I'm trying to guesstimate about 4 times a year.
Oh, that's pretty decent, I'd say. I mean, I am not a shopper, and that's a lot. I don't go to the mall. If I went to the mall 4 times a year, I'd say that was a decent number. The only store that I actually remember though was this like peanut butter store, and it had like 25,000 different flavors of peanut butter. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
I don't know that specific store, but that's definitely one of the cool things about that mall is they just have individual shops that are completely dedicated to one thing. I definitely know there's an entire store that's just cheese.
Well, that would be Minnesota for you. Cheese and lakes. So I had another question. And you kind of touched on it, which is you're working full time for the company that you worked for, doing development and programming and computing. That's littlescribe for I really don't know. But anyway, you were techie there and you managed, but then you would get home at like 6 p.m. and then just steam until what, 2 in the morning? And this was like an everyday thing for how long? 10 years?
Well, I mean, I've only been doing the Steam related stuff for about 2 years now, but
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. That was a dumb question because Steam's only been around for 2 years.
Yeah,
You're so nice. You're like, oh, but I've only been. No, I knew what I was asking. But once you started Steam, you were steaming every night till you went to bed, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so that kind of leads me into my next little bit, which I'm hoping I can make fun of you a little bit. Hang on. Let me go pull it up. Okay, so do you remember I sent you this link and I don't know. I don't know if you went and read it, but I hope you did because it's kind of a throwback. It kind of reminds me of when I go and look at old yearbook photos and I'm like, I cannot believe I said that. So I'm not saying you were out like dumb or anything, but it when I look at this, I'm like, this is so cute. It's so newbie. In your defense though, your noob post is like 10 times better than any of my best posts that I ever did. So just know we still like have great respect for what you did, but I just want to kind of pick on you a little bit. So it's the I'm a cool kid now milestone celebration. Do you remember that one?
Yes, I do. Actually, you might want to drop a link in the chat group just so people can refer to it.
Here I go. Let me drop it in. Okay, so did you take the time to kind of skim over it a little bit?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
So, because I don't know, I think there's a lot of noobs and minnows listening today, and I invited some people who are less than 3 months old and hardly even know what a witness is, let alone what they do, and we'll get into that in a minute. But this milestone post is really quite indicative of Steam It. We all kind of like to measure our milestones, and it's kind of a huge thing that we do to help us feel good about ourselves and good about the platform because, frankly, it can be brutal out there. Am I right?
Yeah, definitely.
So you did this post and it says, I'm a cool kid now, milestone celebration. And this was 2 years ago, like right when you had just joined. I can't remember how long it had been, but like within a couple of months. And then you say, I recently hit 4 important Steam It milestones and wanted to find a way to celebrate. And so here are the milestones. Number one, it's been 2 months since I joined. Number 2, I gained my 200th follower, which actually is pretty good for 2 months. Number 3, I've bought/earned over 1,000 Steam Power, which frankly kind of blows my mind. That's pretty impressive. And then number 4, I hit Reputation 60. I mean, I don't know, guys, but here's what I think. I hear a lot of whining going on, like, I'm not getting noticed, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know a lot of minnows and noobs who had over 1,000 Steam Power and a reputation of 60 within 2 months. I don't. And granted, maybe it's a little harder now. I don't know. Do you think it's harder now? Or do you think you just totally worked your butt off? Or is it a little of both?
It's definitely different now, but I think anyone who works hard has the ability to make a name for themselves, but it's definitely not easy. I did work my butt off.
And by work your butt off, what I think you mean, just based on my observations of what you did then and what you do now, is you posted every day, more than once a day usually. You networked with people, or at least commented regularly and interacted. And to the point that if you scroll down to the bottom of this post, I mean, you fully listed, you said, okay, enough about me, more about all of you. I've met so many awesome Steamians on this site. I want to share with you some of my amazing Steam It friends. And then you went and listed like, I don't know, 20 or 30 of these amazing people. Ooh, Shadow's Pub's on there. Look at you. Dan the Man. Of course, he's not. Ned. Steam Sports. My name is Brian. Like Next Gen Crypto. Guys, these are all people who are still going at it. Roadscape. I'm just kind of loving this. So you listed some people who you felt were up and coming, like Bernie Sanders, Robin Hood Whale, Smooth, and a lot of these people are witnesses now, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, some of them were even pretty high up at the time that I got to know them.
Well, okay, we'll give you that, but I think the connection I'm trying to lead here is that it's not a coincidence that the people who are at the top are at the top. I don't think it just came by accident. And that being said, though, there were some things that you offered to the platform that I think were really necessary at the time. And one of those things, which I know you've probably had to talk about a lot, but we'll do it again here, is you introduced with, you partnered up. Who did you partner up to do the facts page, basically? You did polls to see what people were inquiring about and what they needed answers to. and you assembled basically a frequently asked questions page for Steam It, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I worked on that project with P-Funk, who's another one of the witnesses.
Yes, P Funk. And by the way, P Funk's a great witness. I've always been really happy with his efforts, especially because he's always curating and donating to contests and just very generous in that regard, but does a lot of things like with Steam Cleaner as well. But anyway, so you guys put together the facts page and then you also did the welcome page. What else did you do starting out that kind of got you positioned to where you are today?
Well, as far as the first place that I made a name for myself, it was actually called a project. It was a project called the Steam It Wish List. And essentially, when I joined, similar to today, there was a lot of people throwing ideas around about how to make the platform better. And I mean, it's kind of a throwback to history. The website and the platform when I first joined were very, very lacking in a lot of just bare essential features. I don't think people even quite appreciate how limited it was back then. I mean, just as an example, if you clicked on the follow button, it didn't actually do anything. There was no such thing as feeds. And so everyone
I
was just
totally remember that. Sorry to cut you off, but I totally remember those days. I remember thinking to myself, what? I mean, I know we're not Facebook, but really, we can't just follow someone. And I remember thinking, wouldn't it be so cool if we could follow and share? And you were the one that pushed for the Reese team, right?
I won't take credit for that. I think the idea came from other people, but essentially what I did was I collected all the information from all the different people that were posting stuff. And I think that kind of gets into the networking aspect of things is I really made a point of going out and talking to all the people in the community who are suggesting ideas about how to make the website better. And I basically combined them all into a single post called the Steam It Wish List, and it was just a single aggregated post of all the enhancement suggestions that the community was making. And kind of by having that group collaborative effort of everyone's ideas all together, it made it bubble up and actually got the attention of some of the core dev team. And so, basically working with a lot of people in the community to try to figure out what were the pain points and what do people want done, and then finding a way to put that information together in a way that the dev team can basically look at it and say, oh, here's basically all the things that the community is looking for, and then they could basically go through those and prioritize them and figure out what the best projects to work on are.
I remember that wish list, Tim, and if I recall, you kind of had an ongoing like updated wish list every week or month or so, right?
Yeah, I did a few iterations of it. So after I did the first post, then I kind of turned into the wish list person, and I just got bombarded for the next month or so from a whole bunch of people sending me messages. Hey, you're that person who does that wish list. Here's an idea that I had. And so I did a wish list version 2.0 that kind of took all the additional ideas that came, and so it was definitely an ongoing project, yes.
And I remember looking at that list and having two reactions. Number one reaction, because I have to say I'm a right brain. Okay, so I'm like the creative type who comes on here and is like, I want to show my pictures and draw and write. Like I was a writer. And now I see more need for me to develop my technical side. But at the time, I had no clue what blockchain was. I didn't know nothing. And I just remember looking at those wish lists and being like, hey, I actually kind of understand this. So you had a really clever way of, this is where my hats go off. So off to you, is you had a really clever way of summarizing the needs of the community from the layperson to the highly technical, and then putting it in a nutshell version that the core devs would take seriously. And I think that was the major issue at the time, was so many people were whining about, we need this, we need that. And we understood that it was in beta, and we understood that you can't run faster than you can walk. But you just kind of summarized what everybody was looking for. We were sort of the guinea pigs, I would say. And Tim Cliff comes along and he's like, listen, guys, I got this. And you're so humble about it. But yeah, I think that made a huge difference. And now you'll see a lot of those things from his wish list that are now not just available, but they're implemented within the main block page. So I think that was probably the biggest thing that you did. And then the facts questions, those were a pain. I remember being like, where do we do this? How do we find that? Now it's really well delineated. I think people can have at least an idea where to start, how to get going on here. So yeah, okay, so that was kind of how you made your debut. And And I think for the rest of us who are not technical, can we make it on here and how?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a lot of people that are successful. Just in general, I would say someone's used the phrase "find a hole and fill it," and essentially what I think it boils down to is that there's a lot of needs in the community, and they're not all technical, and so individuals basically have to figure out what talents they have and how they can use them to better serve the community.
I
The
think
other half of it is basically just networking and kind of getting people to know that you're the person for whatever thing that you do, and just building a reputation over time as someone that people are interested in consuming content from.
I think you hit the nail on the head because for me, I narrowed it down. I do this a lot where I like to narrow things down. You'll see. And you're kind of the same way. Is I have like what are the 5 C's? There's content, there's curation, there's community, there's commenting, and then I can't even remember what the 5th one is, probably because I'm nervous. But the point is consistency. That's what it was. So there's like 5 pegs, but you can basically roll it into 2 things. Number one, you need to have something that is of value, and you have to, for me, I was kind of reaching outside of myself and going, well, what are they doing? Maybe I should try that. Or what are they doing? But really what I got down to is what am I good at? What do I love? And what can I offer that's naturally me? So for me, I'm not going to be able to code a hard fork, but I tell you what I can do is I can host a show, or I can write a minnow boost and boost a lot of other minnows that I think are doing awesome. And I can help promote other people, and I can write a short story. So that's what I do. So that's the first peg, is like you're saying, find a hole and fill it, but don't just fill it in where you think it needs to be filled. You need to fill it with the essence of you. So if you're like a total hipster and just want to do like hipster music, then do that. If you like to talk about natural gardening and remedies and non-Western medicine, do that. If you're a musician or if you're an artist, there's a huge space for photography and art on Steemit, which when we started was not the case. It was really hard to get going with art. And now almost I feel that that's like a subculture on here, right? In fact, your husband is an artist. He does photography, graphic design, short stories. He's got this composition. It's like what do you call it? It's a specific style. It's the movie type of, what do you call that?
Sorry, I'm not sure what you're going for.
So he's got these short stories, and then he writes the score, the movie type score for the stories that he writes. I don't.
Oh, soundtrack.
Yeah, like movie soundtracks, right? So he writes these. They're so excellent too. I should drop a link. Can somebody drop a link? I'm gonna drop a link for what is your husband's name here? I have it. I'll find that. I'll drop a link. You guys should go check him out and follow him. Which is so funny because that brings me to my next question. Are you ready? So
yeah, go for it.
So I was like, I actually spied on you a little bit before the show because I wanted to get to know your personality, and I listened to you on a couple of different interviews that you've done with Sir Cork and Shadows Pub, and then I listened to, also, I think you might have noticed I attended the Witness roundup last Saturday morning, and I was like, you came on a couple of times, and I just got this strong impression that you're just a really well composed, reserved, kind of subtle guy, and those are all pretty much like the opposite of me. So then it got me thinking, well, I wonder what his husband is like, because he's all artistic and like expressive, so maybe he's the outgoing one. So then I asked you, who's the more outgoing? Is it you or your husband?
We're actually both fairly introverted. I'd say between the two of us, I've gotten to be the more extroverted one just by doing radio shows like this. I've gotten out and started talking to more people. It's been a unique experience, but I think at my heart, I'm still a fairly introverted person.
You know what? And the introverts are the ones who are going to be the observers and who are going to notice the nuances about what's around them. The extroverts are all going to be like either looking for attention or drawing it to themselves. So I think introverts are the way to go. I just think it's funny that you both are like it's probably really peaceful at your home and you sip tea at night. Like I'm usually like having dance parties and doing lip syncs with my kids. I bet you're probably not doing that.
No, and we actually do sometimes drink tea at night.
Okay, what kind of tea do you drink? I really need to know this.
I like peach and lemon.
Okay, wait. So Sir Cork has a question. He says if your brother, okay, back up a little bit in that post that we were just talking about where you're talking about your milestones, you mentioned your brother. And your brother is actually the one who got you into, was it crypto or Steam It or both?
Both.
So your brother comes along, you look up to your brother, he's really cool, he's a business dude, and he's like, hey, you should go on Steam It. And so you invested 250 smackaroos of your own dollar, and it bought you like 60 Steam at the time, right?
That is correct.
So Sir Cork wants to know if your brother is more crypto and was here first and all, how come he's not like part of a team witness with you or a witness himself or a major project head or something?
He's really actually got his hands full with other projects. He runs a cryptocurrency hedge fund where they basically do investing full time with cryptocurrencies. So that takes up the majority of the time. But I don't want to spill any news yet, but there's a project that he's been working on that he's probably going to be getting on Steam It in the near future with the latest project that he's been working on. But that's something that's probably going to get shared in a couple months.
Okay, so when he's ready to launch that project, how are we going to know about it? Are you going to be behind him, or is he going to be his own entity, or can you say?
Yeah, he'll create his own account for it. He actually has his own personal account, but he hasn't had much time to post on it. He's going to create a new business account for the project that he's working on, and I'll probably re-steam it from my blog once he posts about it.
Well, I hope you do, and we're looking forward to seeing that. So please do update us. Those of you who are just tuning in, this is the Dear Little Scribe show, and we have the illustrious Tim Cliff gracing us with his presence today. And by the way, Tim, I don't think I fully thanked you for coming on my show. This means a lot to our community. We have a lot of newbies here. We have a lot of very sage and wizened visitors here. It's kind of, we're running the gamut between new and old, but I really appreciate you coming because I want to kind of keep the conversation open between witness and the masses. And so thanks again for coming today. This has been really great, and we just really appreciate you being here. By the way,
Yeah, definitely.
if any of you have any questions, just drop them in the comment section. I'll try and catch them. And if I don't and you really want it, just nag me. I'm kind of half blind sometimes. So let's get back to some more questions. You were talking about how when you just recently you were able to quit your day job because you've been able to create a sustainable, comfortable income with Steam It. Now, in my mind, that's kind of indicative of more than just one thing. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. It isn't just that you're able to kind of replace your income. It's that you actually, I wouldn't say changed careers or stopped your career, but you actually took a risk of having no real job. I'm using air quotes right now, everybody, if you're not on the stream. You took the risk to get rid of a quote real job, which means you see the viability of the platform. That's what that means to me.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It was a huge move for me career-wise because I originally had planned on working for the same company for my whole life. I'd worked there for about 10 years and gotten pretty high up in the company and do a management position. And that was a huge part of my life. But as you said, I've been involved with the Steam project for about 2 years. And the more time I spend on it, the more passion I get about it. And it was to the point where, every waking moment that I had, I wanted to be spending more time on Steam. And a while back, probably about 6 months ago, I made the decision to kind of start heading in the direction of trying to actually be able to sustain my livelihood based on this so that I could focus on it full time. And that's where I am now.
So that actually is interesting because last week when I was on is it called the Witness Roundup? Am I saying that right?
I can't remember, sorry.
What was the show that oh, I'm blanking. It was, anyways. You got all the witnesses, like you and Luke Stokes, and then Andrarchy came on, and a few others, and you guys came and talked about stuff. Crimson Clad came on, and I don't know. I don't know if you were watching the live chat, but Crimson and I I wouldn't say we went at it, but like we kind of had a little bit of a friendly debate. And I don't know if you're going to even remember what it was about. It was probably a long time ago in your world, but we were talking about witness pay. And I wanted to kind of challenge you a little bit today. And maybe we'll save the debate for next week, but I do want to kind of challenge you on this subject if you're okay with that.
Yeah, go for it.
So, my very layperson understanding is that let's just give a little bit of a background. So, the witness list is 400 people long. However, only about 133 to 135 of them are legit active. And by active, I mean running full nodes, running updated hard fork 19 nodes, actually not skipping the blocks that they're given, and voluntarily being on the list, like not withdrawing themselves from the pool. So can we at least agree that we really only have about 135 active witnesses?
Yeah, that number sounds about right.
Okay, so that being said, taking that number, witness numbers 1 through 19 have a different pay scale than witnesses number 20 through 135. And just for the audience,
Actually, just a quick technicality. It's 1 through 20 are the top witnesses.
Thank you. Did I say 19?
Yep.
Thank you for correcting me. Anytime I make a mistake, I really appreciate it. So witnesses 1 through 20 have a different pay scale than witnesses 21 through 135, or whatever the number may be. And so just for the audience, I'm going to give an explanation, and then maybe you can butt in if I make a mistake. So witnesses 21 through 135 have the opportunity to work themselves up to the top. And as they get closer to the top, their servers, or the word that we use here is nodes, their nodes will run or sign or process a block for the blockchain every so many minutes or hours. And the closer you get to the top, the more you're going to get. So as you're up to like 21, you're going to be processing every minute, right?
Yeah, every 63 seconds.
Every 63 seconds. And then as you move on down the line, it'll be anywhere from 2 minutes to 2 hours to a week. So, but the point is that the way that witnesses are compensated for their time and efforts is that they get paid when they process. Is the word process okay to use? Process a block?
I'd change it with produce.
Produce. The witnesses get paid per block that they produce. And we're not going to get into blockchain because I'm not great at that right now. So we'll just say they produce a block for the blockchain. They get paid for the block that they produce. And if you're number 54, like Ats David, who I see here, he's going to be getting 1 steam per block that he produces. And at the witness number 54, that's going to be like once an hour. Is that right, Ats?
Actually, so the pay is not exactly 1 steam. I believe if you're 21 and below, it's around 0.9 steam, and if you're 20 and above, it's around 0.2 steam.
Okay, that's what I was trying to ask. So it looks like what they've done is for the top 20, you guys get a fraction of a steam for every block that you produce. However, you produce every minute. And so there is kind of that trade-off. My question is, Cork says it's 0.97. Ats David, who is, his witness name is Ats Witness. He's doing about 18 to 20 blocks a day. So multiplying that by 0.9, that's 20, we'll just say that's 18 steam a day, which right now is worth what? What are we at? 2.8 US dollars.
It's
So,
down a bit. I think it's around 2.2 at the moment.
okay, so if I were to just do quick math in my head, I'd say he was making like a few $100s a month. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but look, it's hypothetical, so who really cares? Point being, somebody who's like number 50 is going to be making a lot less than someone who's up top at number 21, who's going to be making, say, I think the number was 1100 steam per day, which right now would be about 2800 US dollars per week. Any objections?
Sounds about right.
Okay, so let's say our number 21 is making $2,800 a week at the current rate of, or the current value price feed of Steam. And then you jump up to number 20, and it more than doubles. I think that it was around 4,500 a week. Do you know what you're making a week?
Well, it changes every week, but I make basically 250 Steam a day.
Okay, so I'm not going to do the math, but we do know that the Steam jump is pretty drastic. Now, I'm a bit of a capitalist. I'm sort of an Ayn Rand fan when it comes to business. And my whole thinking is, if you're the CEO of a company and you're making $20 million a year, good on ya. You earned that spot. No one else is going to sleep 3 hours a night and do what you do all day as the CEO of a company. So if you want to complain about how he's making all this money, why don't you go do his damn job? Okay, so that's where I come from. And when I talk about how much money you're making, I do it with a respect of, I know how hard you guys are working. My question is, how do we incentivize some of the really awesome witnesses on the platform who are killing themselves to do amazing work for the platform, and they're only getting like $400 a week or a month, when we have top 20 who are earning far more and cashing hundreds of thousands by the end of the year? How would you justify that?
Well, there's a few parts to it. One is just as a general Steam rule, I think it's best not to try to compare what you make with other people. But that said, I can come from a place where I was below the top 20 for a pretty long time. And I know the feeling of basically busting your butt trying to work really hard. And I mean, there was several months where I was getting made fun of by a lot of my friends for spending so much time on Steam, where I was basically making significantly less than minimum wage for the amount of time that I put in.
Right.
But the way I always looked at it was my time was an investment. I saw basically the money that I was making, or the Steam that I was making, is something that could go up significantly in value. And so, if I earned 400 Steam in a month and that 400 Steam goes up to $10, that's still a substantial amount of money. And I think that the way that the system is set up is good. It's definitely not perfect, but it's intended to incentivize competition. I don't want to pick on any one individual top witness, but there's definitely people in the top 20 that in my mind are not really pulling their weight. And the solution to that in my mind is we need more people that are in the lower ranks to work their way up and do what's necessary to get the votes to move their way in. And I don't want to downplay the fact that that's an extremely difficult thing to do. I think everyone who's in the witness game understands how difficult it really is to get votes, especially from some of the key stakeholders. But it is not impossible, as a lot of people have tried to frame it. I'm a perfect example where I didn't know anybody on the platform other than my brother, who wasn't a whale or anything like that. And I worked my way up by basically doing a whole bunch of awesome stuff and getting recognition for it. And I'm not the only one that's done it. I saw Jesta do the exact same thing. He did it before me, and I've seen several other witnesses, including Follow BTC News, and I'm trying to think of a few of the others who've recently. Netu also has made it into the top 20, and I know there's a few others as well like I said, it's not easy, but I feel that the people who are really taking this seriously and acting as if this is their full-time job and putting in the work to make the platform better eventually are going to get recognized. But it's not intended to be easy. People really do need to find a way to add value in a way that gains recognition and really makes the platform better. And the people that are in the lower ranks are basically in a position where they're trying to compete for those upper spots, and it's a tough competition.
Well, and I actually agree. I would say 99.9% with what you've said. I think we're omitting some truths here, though, Tim, because if that were the case, then I think we'd see a lot more people climbing to the top. And the reason I say this is because I know several witnesses who are kicking ass on the platform who are having the dickens climbing up. And one of the reasons is, frankly, because of the actual witness voting page. I mean, have you seen it? What do you think about the fact that most people don't even know who the witnesses are, let alone what they're doing? All they have is top 30 at best on the Steam it link. But if you go to steamed.com, you can find the top 50. So at least you get more. When viably we have over 130 active witnesses. And you were saying these guys got to work their way up. I don't disagree. I think they got to work their way up, and they need to mean what they're doing. They got to put their money where their mouth is. If they want to be a witness, you got to put in the time and the effort, just like you did, just like everybody else did. But you and I both agree that some of the folks at the top are not pulling their weight now that they're there. And we can talk about why that is. I don't know if we'll have time in this segment. We can talk about why we think that is, but what's to incentivize a really hardworking, amazing witness to get to the top when he might actually feel like that is an impossibility, meaning an actual impossibility. Like maybe you get up to 25 and that's about as good as it's gonna get. What's to incentivize him to keep trying? And
So
and I'm sorry to
just saying,
I just have a question from Katrina Ariel. She says, I would like to see rewards increase for witnesses who are making significant contributions who aren't in the top 20. So as a second leg to that question, if they don't make it to the top 20, what can we do to incentivize witnesses who are doing amazing things to grow and sustain the platform? Okay, your turn, go.
so there's a lot there. I'll answer the second question first because it's a relatively easier one compared to the other. Anyone who's adding significant value outside of their witness camp or through their witness campaign can post about it, and if the community sees value in it, they can vote on it. So that's essentially a path forward, at least for that specific question. But on the other one, it's a loaded topic, and I know, when I'm sitting here at the top, it's an easy thing to say, but I am truly coming from a position of I was below the top 50 for a long time myself, and I know how it is. That anyone who's using that as a reason that they're not a top witness is basically just making an excuse for themselves. The top stakeholders know how to vote for witnesses who are not in the top 50, and people who are really taking this seriously and making a significant splash and getting notice, they're going to get votes without having to have their name up there on the steamit.com witness page. I understand that the people who are in the higher positions do get more votes, but I don't see not being there as a reason that people who are truly worthy of being a top 20 witness aren't there. I'm a good example. Just is a good example. Follow BTC News is a good example. Netuoso is a good example. All of us had to start below the 50 point, and we did enough stuff to get recognized. Like I said, it's really not an easy task, and I think part of the problem is the people that are not there and aren't making it up are possibly underestimating how truly difficult it is to work their way up.
I think you're right. No, I think you're right. I think they don't see it coming and they're like, meh, I'm out. It's too much work. And that's fine. Some people do not have the time or the energy to commit. But I will have to interject here and say, okay, right, there are those. And yeah, it's not the voting page's fault, right? Like if we instantly fix the voting page, it's not going to suddenly make everybody get to the top. I get what you're saying. However, it's pretty, some would say, and this is where I lack in the technical knowledge, but some would say that once you're in the top, there's something of a circle jerk. So even if the entire voting pool of the Steam It people got together, you would need to get something like $350 million worth of votes to even get one witness above that 20 line.
So
So,
I'm just gonna say the same thing. The people who like to pull this up are making excuses. I have not circle jerk voted for any people in the top 20. I have always just voted for the people who I felt are the best witnesses. And I've earned a lot of votes from large stakeholders who I haven't personally voted for, and I'm also voting for a lot of large stakeholders who aren't voting for me back. Like, the large stakeholders in the community will eventually notice when there's somebody like Follow BTC News who's kicking ass and taking names and doing awesome things for the platform. If if witnesses are not doing enough to make that splash, either because the projects they're working on aren't adding enough value or they're not communicating it in the right way to get stakeholders' attention, that's on them. That is part of a witness campaign, is figuring out how do I add value and how do I convince the stakeholders that what I'm doing is important.
okay, so At's witness just asked the question. Well, I'm going to modify it. He said, what adds enough value? Quote, enough value. And I want to modify it and say, who decides what is enough value? Because I can see from my standpoint that what I value is not necessarily what, say, Jesta values. And as a minnow, if I were suddenly a witness, I guarantee you I would not be voting on the people that he's voting for. And don't give me the we're all different, we all think different things. I think that it's an ideology issue. And I don't know Justice, so I just picked on him because I know he's at the top. Please forgive if there's any insults. That was not meant as that. I'm just going to say who you vote for is going to be completely different for who I. So who decides? And that's what I'm getting at too, is what we decide is valuable is really up to those who have the most influence. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But what if there was something like a centralized opinion? And I kind of thought that having 20 top witnesses was supposed to diffuse the centralization. There are a lot of complaints about it being quite the opposite. Would you agree or disagree?
I'd say that the I'm trying to figure out how not to turn the show into a debate because I think Sir Cork and I were going to kind of talk about some of those issues on a different show. But I really think that every individual stakeholder chooses who they vote for based on who they think is going to add the most value. And as you said, different stakeholders are going to have different opinions. If you boil it down to its core, I think all the large stakeholders want the value of Steam to go up. And so if what you're doing is helping to boost the price of Steam in some way, then it's at least in the right direction. Whether or not a stakeholder is going to agree is adding value to Steam and whether or not they're going to notice are different things. But just in the most general sense, I think if you're doing things that are going to help the economy and make the Steam price go up, that's generally what the majority of the stakeholders are looking for.
Okay, I think that was a very diplomatic answer, Tim. We are coming up on the hour. We're 10 minutes to here Pacific Standard Time. It's 10 to 2 p.m. It'll be 1:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're at what 4:50 p.m. and then Universal Time. It's going to be almost 9 p.m. Thanks everyone for joining us. This is the Dear Little Scribe show. If you're just tuning in, we're wrapping up an interview with Tim Cliff, who is a top 4 witness, talking kind of about personal stuff and maybe a little bit about the blockchain and what got him here. The last thing I wanted to talk about before we run out of time, or we can hang out a little bit longer if you'd like, I wanted to ask you about what you're doing recently. And you mentioned something about I think it was last Saturday when I was in listening to the show that you were on. You said something. Let me see if I can remember the quote. You said, up till now, Steam It Inc. is the only entity, you use the word entity, that has been able to make hard fork. I think the word you used was development or programming. I can't remember what you said, but anyway, trying to get verbatim here. Why don't you talk about that and then say maybe a little bit about what you are doing to either change that or add to that?
Sure. So, one of the things that I've gained from talking to a lot of the stakeholders is that a lot of people have concerns that essentially the Steam blockchain development is done 100% by the developers at Steemit Incorporated. And that's put some concerns in people's minds just as far as decentralization. And it's caused some friction with the community in that, um, for one thing, if God forbid Steemit were to just up and disappear, the community would probably be in serious trouble as far as forward by doing any significant blockchain development. And the other part of that is that there's a lot of changes that the community wants done, which are not currently priorities for Steemit. And if they're the only ones doing the development and they don't want to spend the time on it, then who's going to do those changes? And so I feel that one thing that we definitely need more of is community developers who are actually able to understand the blockchain code and work with it in a way that we can make changes to the protocol.
And
And
sorry to interrupt, but what do you mean by community developers? You mean like non-witnesses, non-stakeholders, just like regular blokes on the on the blockchain?
anyone not in Steemit Inc.
Okay, so not at the in the core dev team, but just like me, for instance, if I were a developer.
Yeah, or me.
Okay, obviously not me, but you know, hypothetically speaking. Okay, so by Steemit developers, you mean people who really do know what they're doing. So you obviously know what you're doing. You wanted to be able to develop hard fork changes and propose them and actually request them. Right now, the only thing you can do as a top witness is say yay or nay, and you have to have a 67% consensus in order to incorporate it into the blockchain, which then becomes a hard fork. What you're saying is, guys, I want to have a say in hard fork. Here's my proposal. Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, and even going a step beyond that. So, I mean, without doing any development as a witness, I can go to people at Steemit and say, hey, as a witness, I find this very important. I suggest that you all work on this. And sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. And then whatever they do right as a witness, I essentially vote yay or nay on whether or not to accept it. What I'm trying to do is go a step beyond that and not just say, hey, you guys should go work on this, but actually writing the code myself and saying, hey, witnesses, here is a hard fork change. I have developed it, and then having them vote yay or nay on the change that I've developed.
And because you have now retired essentially from your day job, you have a little more time on your hands to develop this new development. And what that means for us is we're hoping that your developments are more or less a reflection of, or I would rather say, an extension of your wish list. This is what it sounds like to me. This new thing sounds like Tim's kind of extrapolation from the wish list, right?
Yeah, totally. I think a good way of putting it is that I'm going to try taking things off from the wish list and actually doing them myself to get them done.
And to me, as a witness, that's empowering. I would be like, you know what? Hell with y'all. I'll do it. I got time. Is that kind of what this is about?
Yeah.
Have you been a little frustrated?
As far as
Like you see things that need to be done, you're making a request, they're not getting done. Fine, I'll do them myself. If you want something done, you got to do it yourself in a way, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the general idea behind it is that if they're not going to do it, then I would, do it yourself. I wouldn't say it's coming from a point of frustration, though. It's basically just a need in the community that's not currently being met and one that I feel that I have the ability to help with.
You found a hole and you're going to fill it. Okay, so a couple more minutes. Could you give us an idea of maybe what one of your hard forks will be?
Sure. So I've actually already submitted a pull request. Fellow BTC News just put a link in the chat. It's a little in the weeds as far as the technicalities, but it's basically a tweak to the Steam-backed dollars printing rate. I'm also working on another change, which I think people would be able to wrap their heads around a little more, which is a lot of users say that they use beneficiaries in different ways. Like a lot of platforms, if you post through their platform, they put the platform as a small beneficiary. Beneficiaries also allow multiple users to create posts and share in the income. But the way that the beneficiary's code is currently written, if if I put 50% steam power, 50% liquid payment as my payout option when I create my post, as the author, I'm going to get 50% of that in steam back dollars, but the beneficiaries are still going to get paid as 100% steam power. And so all the people that are using beneficiaries have been saying it would be really nice, especially right now with high steam dollar prices, if we could receive our portion of the pay in steam dollars as well. And so I'm planning on a protocol to basically change it so that when a beneficiary pays out, it pays out with whatever payout type the whole post is using.
See, that's kind of a clever idea. And it looks like Noisy has a question kind of along those lines. Do you have a few more minutes or do you need to run? Because I promised you that I'd let you go at the bottom of the hour. Do you want to stick around for a minute or you need to be somewhere?
Yeah, I've got time.
So Noisy says, and you're gonna have to forgive me because I really don't quite know what he's asking. Okay, so I'm just gonna read it. It says, Little Scribe, question to Tim Cliff regarding possible changes in SBD threshold. There are some people on the platform who collect and have or had over one, I think it's minimum SBD. What would happen, in your opinion, if such a person would sell all of that SBD while having SBD at a 5% market cap of Steam?
They meant million. I didn't quite understand what the question is. Let me go and try to read it in chat.
Okay. And Noisy, if you want to rephrase anything, I really apologize if I slaughtered your question. I think what it gets down to is, I think what he's
Okay,
at.
I just read it. So the price of Steam dollars actually has no influence on the SBD debt ratio. So when he's talking about the SBD being at above 5% of market cap, he's talking about the debt that exists with Steam dollars that can be redeemed for Steam is more than 5% of the total market cap of Steam. And if a person even had all the Steam back dollars in the world and they sold them all at once, it would definitely crash the Steam dollar price, or at least lower it. I don't know if I use the word crash, but the selling of the Steam dollars and even the lowering of the Steam dollar price below a dollar would not cause the debt ratio to change. And where that ends up is that the arbitrage opportunity, let's say that Steam dollars drop down to, say, 85 cents because someone just dumped a whole bunch of Steam dollars on the market. There's an opportunity for smart traders to basically buy Steam dollars at 85 cents to be able to redeem them for a dollar by converting them into a dollar worth of Steam.
Right.
So the risk of somebody who's collected a large amount of Steam dollars dumping them on the market doesn't really have a risk for the doesn't really have a risk for the debt ratio. Essentially, the risk is that it would crash the price of the Steam dollars. But with the mechanisms that are built in for being able to convert Steam dollars to Steam, there's a relatively stable floor of Steam dollars around a dollar, where if it passes below that, it's probably going to be a good buying opportunity for other traders to come in and pick it up.
Okay, and so when you guys are setting the price feed, you're keeping that in mind, because I know at some point there were witnesses who were saying, let's just keep it pegged to the dollar and have it more authentic, and then it will grow kind of from the inside out. But now what we're at is something more like just looking at the market trends and keeping it as close to that as possible without losing the value, like if someone pump and dumps, right? Am I like on the right page?
Well, so it gets into a lot of complicated mechanisms, but as witnesses, we essentially have a tool belt to help prop the price of Steam dollars up. There's various things that we can do to incentivize demand, where if the price drops below a dollar significantly and people aren't wanting to pick it up and trade it, we have abilities to put interest or manipulate the price feeds to essentially incentivize demand. The problem is that we don't have a very robust tool belt on the other side. I don't know if it was necessarily envisioned when they created the Steam dollars that there would be an excessive amount of demand to buy these things that are, according to the blockchain, only worth $1 when at prices above $1. So the at the protocol level, I think really what's missing is the incentive or the ability for witnesses to push the price back down in the other direction. There's a few different ways that we could do that theoretically, but there's a lot of debate as far as whether or not they're healthy approaches. And in my opinion, we don't really have the appropriate tools to push Steam dollars down, which makes it difficult to hold it at the dollar peg.
So totally random, but you're completely from Minnesota right now. Like I'm hearing it. I'm like, the dollar's down. You sound just like my brother when he came back from living there for 5 years. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, I had maybe one more question for you, and it totally slipped my mind, and it was a really good question. It was basically, I was gonna kind of maybe think about getting into the linear voting stuff, but I think that that's too big a subject and too debatable. I'll let you and Sir Cork handle that. I know At's Witness has had some complaints about that. I don't want to get into that here. First of all, I'm not educated enough to have a conversation in that nature. But secondly, I don't want to get too boring or too long. But I did want to. One thing I did want to ask you is, what kind of music do you listen to? I wanted to kind of personalize it a little bit. And then as we're talking, I'll see if I can rack my brain what my technical question was for you.
I would say I listen to pretty much everything. In general, on the radio, I listen to probably more pop type stuff, but I also like classical, techno, small, very, very small amount of country, pretty much anything.
So, one of the things I'm a little tired of hearing, I'm sorry, I'm getting back to, I did not mean to like not acknowledge your question. I just thought of something. One of the things I wanted to get back to was that I was a little tired of hearing the whole SMT talk. So I remembered what it was that I was going to ask you. This is kind of a naive question, so you'll have to bear with me. But like, what's it like when you go to board meetings? Because when I picture a board meeting with top 20, I think of like a big, long, shiny maple table with coffee and chairs and a whiteboard and a projector screen or something. Like, what do you do? Like, do you guys just like go, oh, we're going to have a meeting now because Tim wants to program a hard fork? Or like, is it just sort of on the fly? Do you do it weekly? Give me the actual, like, what is it like?
So there really aren't such thing as boardroom meetings. It's very decentralized. So there's a whole bunch of different communication channels that witnesses use. And it's basically just kind of ideas flowing around and people discussing them, a lot of one-on-one conversations. But yeah, there's really no formalized meetings.
So what kind of meetings are there? The secret, not so secret Slack meetings?
The first rule of secret Slack is don't talk about secret Slack.
Right. Okay. You just talked about it. So how do you guys get together? Do you just chat in Discord?
It's a lot of decentralized chat. I mean, similar to what we do here.
You keep using the word decentralized like you're nervous or something. Like I'm going to accuse you of being centralized.
No, like, there's some witnesses that I talk to in Steam.chat. There's some witnesses that I talk to in Discord. There's some that I talk to through email. It's just, and I've had phone conversations with others. So it's just, a lot of miscellaneous, unconnected conversations. And, I think consensus just builds over time as people have these conversations and they get to know what other witnesses' opinions are and what community members and stakeholders' opinions are. We're not just like sitting in a room where, we throw an idea out there and everyone talks about it all at once. And actually, AgRoad's Witness Forum on the last Saturday of every month is another opportunity where witnesses kind of get together and bounce ideas off each other. So it's just a lot of different channels that people go through.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm getting at. And by the way, AgRoad's Witness Forum on Saturday was like 90% Andrarchy talking about SMT, and I kind of wanted to gag, but the rest of it was good. Also, yes, you guys have to talk. I mean, you're in consensus. You know each other so well. Maybe you don't have to talk that much, but someone's having a board meeting, and maybe it's not you. But someone's got to say, hey, guys, we got this, and you got to have a consensus to make a hard fork. Somebody came up with linear voting, and then someone had to say, sure, I'll put it in my block. I mean, you didn't just, like, do it. You had to sit down, and you had a chat.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, a lot of those chats come from one-on-one conversations, and as far as witness voting, like for example, the hard fork proposal that I'm working on, I'm at some point in the near future, once I get my other SPD change done, going to have a conversation where I'm essentially going to reach out and talk to all the individual witnesses and just say, you're probably familiar with this change by now. If you're not, we'll answer questions and whatnot. But essentially, I'll get to the point where I from an individual witness perspective, whether they're for or against that change. And I essentially, as a developer who wants my change to proceed, I need to find out whether or not I have 17 or more votes out of the witnesses that are there.
I think that works for me, Tim. We have borrowed enough of your time today. I hate to keep you. I know you're a busy guy. But again, thanks again for coming on the show, and keep an eye out for Tim's hard fork decisions. You've kind of got me interested. I'm going to have to watch you closely, and I'd really like you to come back on the show. Although you've already agreed to, you're going to, Tim Cliff and Sir Cork will be doing a friendly witness debate here pretty soon. I am not sure which day. It will be within the next couple of weeks. And I don't know what to call it. I need help naming it. So go to my blog and read the proposals that people have given and either vote on them or give me new ideas. And whoever gives me an idea that I end up picking will get 5 SBD from me if you came to today's show. So go ahead and look on my blog. I'll have to hunt it down and I'll put it in the chat. But I need help finding a name. Anyway, we look forward to seeing you again, Tim. You've been a really wonderful guest and very, very great to get to know. And I just appreciate everything that you've shared with us. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And feel free to stick around if you like. This next hour, we're going to roll over into Bethalia. And before we talk with her, I don't know if the welcome wagon is here. I know that she was going to try and make it. But if she's here, then we'll have her step in. And if not, then I will just do a little plug for her. So let me see if I can find her. Welcome Wagon, are you around? I don't see you. Welcome Wagon. Just for all of your information. Oh, Dreams Team. Here she is. Okay. I don't see you on the... Are you in the control booth? Okay, I do see you here. I don't see you in the control booth. Maybe hop over to the control booth, see if we can get you your lovely voice. In the meantime, while she's figuring that out, I wanted to just talk about what she's doing. So, she's in the Steam Star Discord. That's a great place to be, but it's not here. It's easier there. Oh, well, that's because Sir Cork runs it, and he's kind of the bomb at that stuff. Yeah, you're gonna have to be in here to talk. I'm in the control booth and everyone else is here. Okay, there you are. Okay, are you ready to... So Dreams Team has put together something called the Welcome Wagon, and here's how we met, okay? I was doing something of what she's doing, only like at a smaller scale. I opened my Steamtopia Discord channel because I just felt like I had an interest and a knack for helping newbies. And the reason why is because I remember my first days on Steemit when people would help me out and I was like blown away. Oh my gosh, they took time with me. I can't believe that. And I was so clueless. I was like deer in the headlights clueless. Like no dev experience, no blockchain, nothing. I was a writer. That was it. And David helped me out a lot, and I don't think Sir Cork, we knew each other at that time. But anyway, so one of the things that I always took with me was I want to be like that when I'm big, when I grow up. So what I started doing was I opened up a server so that I could help noobs. And I haven't done as good of a job as I wanted to because it's so hard to juggle the time. So I run across Dream Steam, and she's doing it like around the clock, sleeps like 3 hours a night helping out these newbies. And so I kind of like begged her to be on the team. And she's like, "Oh, well, let's have a talk." Anyway, so she's letting me do a few things to help out the team. And one of the things that I just really wanted to do was have her either on the show or just do a plug for her for the welcome wagon every show that I do, because they're doing so many things for the newbies. So I'm going to throw it over to you, Dreams Team. Maybe give a little few minutes and tell us what you're about, and I'll interrupt you if I need to.
Sounds good. Hopefully, I think I probably have a little bit of a lag, so if we cross over our voices, you'll just have to keep talking until I hear you.
No worries.
Hey, Maverick. Yeah, so that's basically what we did. In April, the end of April, Shadows Pub had her witness chat, and there was a bunch of us in there listening to some of the issues that were plaguing Steemit, and a lot of it came down to a lot of people just being ignorant of what they needed to know. Not ignorant in a bad way, just, kind of going around thinking, I don't know what I'm doing and I don't even know the right questions to ask. And so a couple times I suggested in text, hey, why don't we just help them to know? And the first time it was kind of looked over. The second time I suggested it, a few more people liked it. The third time I suggested it, we kind of formed our own little our group.
It's so funny. I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt, but it's so funny because it's such a obvious answer. Like, well, someone's got to do it, right? So you just kind of was like, I will do it then. I guess we're gonna do this. And
yeah.
And the thing is, like, my thing is that a lot of people come on here and they're like, oh, I'm going to make so much money, blah, blah, blah. And then they get disenfranchised and they either give up or they do use gimmicks, neither of which are healthy for themselves or for the platform. I kind of feel like the whole mission of Welcome Wagon is not just to help them, but it's sort of like a pay it forward thing. Am I right?
Yeah, it is a pay it forward thing. A lot of people have kind of connected with me already on the Welcome Wagon, and they tease me because I like to, throw my help around. And they're like, well, when are you going to kind of just relax and let it come back? And I'm like, okay, but here's the thing. Everybody has generosity, right? Levels of generosity, but really, I am selfishly motivated. Steemit is my home, and I want Steemit to be a wonderful place. And so I realized that if we have a lot of people here that are wandering around and not knowing what to do and who to hang on to, they're going to end up leaving. And the bad people, that's okay, they can leave.
Yeah.
But the good people that really just need somebody to hold their hand, we want to give them an opportunity. And when they stay and they continue to produce good content and they love Steemit as much as we do, we're making a stronger Steemit. So in the long run, it does come back around to me, and it does help me to have a stronger home. And so that's why I do it. That's why I love it. And I actually really do enjoy just connecting with people, and it's been really fun so far.
And I think that that's the point that sold me so hardcore on you, because there are several wonderful teams out there who are doing similar work, whether it's curation or coaching. There's no shortage of individuals who are really trying to help. The difference, the reason I wanted to join up with your forces is because you really do kind of have this attitude of, I want to make Steemit a great place. If I want something done right, I've got to do it myself. Just like Tim with his wish list. Everyone kind of has a strength. Everyone has something that they feel they can give. If your strength is not being a patient tutor, then yeah, obviously that's not going to be what you do. But if your strength is seeing where newbies are struggling and helping them feel better about themselves and getting them the right information so that they can produce good content and actually make it on here, then maybe that is something that you would do as a person, not you personally, but like the world. And for me, I just like knowing that there are excellent people out here trying to make it a better place, because I kind of feel frustrated a lot of the times where I'm like, I just wish people would get this, right? It's really just about consistency and quality and kind of feeling good about what you're doing, being authentic. And so what do? You pick out, how do you pick out the people that are going to be in your program, or is that classified?
Nope, it's not classified. We pick them out by scouring through blogs and we look to see who's new and we look to see who's consistent already, and who's producing good content but undervalued, of course, because they're new. They haven't had any visibility yet. And we just kind of come alongside them and say, hey, we like what you're doing. We have a few hints and tips. If you would like to check us out, please do so. I'm very much about giving them choices. You know, they have a lot of people. I mean, anybody who's gotten an introduce yourself post, even the new challenge that went out, reintroduce yourself. It's pretty funny because there's tons of bots on there that are just saying, welcome, welcome, welcome. And it's a reintroduce yourself challenge. We've already been here for a while. So when people come in and they see all these bots, they're like, wow, wow, so much help. But nobody's actually reading their blogs and nobody's really holding their hand. And one of the things that I think across the board I've heard from people who have been successful and have stuck it out, they all say, you know what? I had that one person. We all had that one person that was our go-to person that could answer our questions, give us tips, whatever. So we just try to be that one person. And I will just say this one thing. I did kind of say, hey, I'm going to do it myself, but knowing that I really can't do it myself. Okay, there's only so much time in the day, and I am very much a part of a team that does it all together. So I never want to come across as like, oh, it's all me, guys. It's definitely not. And I have so much support, and I've had so much support behind the scenes. It's been really incredible to like go into my wallet just to see if I'm looking to see if, you know, that Steam basic income registration went through, and that I'm looking and there's surprises in there for me. You know, there's delegations in there for me that I'm not asking for, but people believe in it and they just come alongside us, and they, you know, later on I'll come back to them and say, why didn't you tell me that you put that in there? I would have given you a shout out. I would have thanked you. And their answers always really touch me. And that's what I want. I want a team of people around me that are genuine and that aren't, you know, all about themselves. They're about giving to other people first. And because they are the ones that really know that it does come back around, and we don't have to be like all la la la, here we are, happy happy. I mean, of course there's hard times, there's times when we're down, there's times when we're struggling, but you know, it's really pretty sweet when we are there to lift each other up and encourage each other and support each other. And that's what we want to do for the newbies that are worth it. I really do think that they're worth it, because I think Steam It is worth it.
Well, I think you just summed everything up so well, far better than I would have. And especially, I don't know who said it, but somebody said, Dreams Team has a dreamy voice. Doesn't she have a dreamy voice, you guys? Anyway, I think it's so apropos, because yes, you know, I do want to help, and yes, I think it's worth it to just help for free and not get anything. And I'm putting money into my Minnow Boost, my Boost Me posts, and I'm putting money into things. I mean, even it's hard for me to say right now because I don't want to like brag about it. But my point is, when you really believe in something, you're going to put what you have into it. And that's the cool thing, is people are like giving you steam power, delegating steam power and giving you stuff. So I think what that says, if I'm not mistaken, is that there is a need for someone who has the stick-to-itiveness that you have. And yeah, you have a great team, but you handpick these people, and you're really picky about what you have going, and you are really careful not to turn it into a big brigade. It's a very small, scalable, slowly building integrity, making sure you're doing what you promise you will deliver. And that is what makes you different from a lot of the blokes out there. So I just want to give hats off to Dream Steam and the Welcome Wagon. If you want to go check her out or help in any way, I'm sure there's no end of things you could do, from helping to curate the noobs to on her channel, or on her blog, to donating steam power, to helping with some of the contests and helping upvote people. I just think, when I put my efforts into something, it's because I think that it's making a difference, even for one person. And if we could do it for a few more, that would be awesome. If you're interested in that, feel free. If not, no bigs. You do what you do and we'll do what we do. And that's great. That's what makes the Steam Girl go around. Dream Steam, thanks again for coming on. I'm going to try and have you as often as I can, just because I think we need to do a plug for this. Is there anything else you want to add before I move on to Bethalia?
Nope, that's it. Thank you so much for having me. And Bethalia, you did a great job teaching me poker. Don't listen to anybody else.
I taught him how to play too. I'm not worried.
Okay. Bethalia, this is, I think, the first time I've heard your voice.
I think it's the first time I've heard your voice. How are you?
Nice to meet you officially. Is it Bethalia or Leah?
It's Bethalia. It's spelled stupid, but I came up with the name back in the day when I was all into Princess Leia, and the correct spelling of Leia was taken, so I made it up, and yeah, you can call me Beth. It's totally fine.
That was my next question. So if I could just call you Beth, and then you can just call me Becky or Little Scribe. I go by Little Scribe on my show, but whatever. So speaking of
Becky, that's so cute.
Yeah, it's Becky. Becky and Beth.
I have to keep the giggling to a minimum.
I don't know if we can. You guys, we're going to kind of shift gears here. So our next and final guest, and I'm going to try and squeeze a little Darren Claxton on the end, but we'll see how we are on time. The Becky and Bethy Show. That's David. We love you.
Bethy, David, ew. Come on.
We could do the Beck and Bethy. Beck and Bethy.
Oh my God, I'll just start with my Valley Girl thing, and then we'll just go with that,
Beck and Beth. Beck and Beth. So the reason I love you is, let me count the ways. But okay, so let's start with the Steam It Poker League. Let me actually just kind of review, like, what are you doing right now? You are the moderator on the Steam It Poker League channel. Is that right?
Well, yeah, I tend to boss the boys around on the Discord channel, so yes.
Okay. Also, I know it's so. I think they need a little bit of.
They need it.
They do.
They need it. They need it. They love her. They love it. It's like, it's necessary. They get all hiffy and out of hand with that.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny watching you go at it with those guys. I love it.
I love them so much. It's such a fun community.
And At says, I just like juice.
You know why he's here? I threatened him so hard over the last couple of days. It's like, dude, I'm going to get in there. I'm going to talk about how sweet you are and what a kind and gentle person.
Okay, so Cork says, Beth will make you go to bed early with no juice. And then Ad says, I like juice. Wah, wah, wah.
You see what I'm dealing with here? Like, no, you don't get any juice when you're being awful.
You get no juice, David. Bad boy.
And they like it.
So you moderate that page. You keep the boys in check. What are you right now? Are you 33 or where are you at?
Well, I just won a couple tournaments this last week, but yeah, that's about right. Around
And
30 in ranking. We have over 1,000 members now, so out of that 1,000, I'm about 30.
So I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. It's just, I should be doing better. But
I love how you're so critical, just like a woman. But didn't your dad or your grandpa get you into poker when you were like 10? Tell us that story.
It actually was my mom. My mom was really sick when I was little.
Hold the phone.
Shit.
Ats just said you would do better if you weren't a girl. Are you gonna take that? Are you gonna take that? Nice.
Can I curse? Is this PG?
We're PG. We're PG. We're family friendly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's my fault. I should have told you. You're totally fine. So back to mom. Mom told you how to play poker?
Yes, my mom did. She was awesome and fun, but she was dying until she died. And so we had to find things to do that we could like just sit down and chill. And she liked to play cards, so she taught me how to play poker and how to shuffle and do all the things. So I've always loved it, and it's fun. And then when my husband got me onto Steam It, that's a whole different story. But I didn't want to until I found the Steam It Poker League because I love poker.
Because that's your home. And frankly, I'd say it's a little bit of a tribute to your mama, wouldn't you?
Well, I think so. Like, whenever I hear people badmouth it or talk about how it's stupid or whatever, it's just like, I guess people don't get it. I don't know why there's there's like 5 girls that play in this whole league. I don't get that. And I don't get the animosity that a lot of the general public has for poker. It's fun.
And to be fair, Ats David was basically making the joke about that like, so what? Girls can play poker too. Like, what's the big deal? And he understands that, the nuance there. He
really does. He's so full of stuff. He's full of baloney. All the balonies he is full of.
Yes.
He and Guilty Parties this last March sponsored an entire tournament series dedicated to women and getting more women involved in the Steam It Poker League, culminating in a huge tournament on International Women's Day. So, like, wow. He knows better.
Yeah, he does. He likes to give you flack.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that tough outer shell.
Yeah. He said, he said there was over 135 SBDs were given away in that. Was it a month? I think it was a month.
That's pretty awesome sauce.
Yeah, exactly. It was awesome.
Okay,
it was awesome. And we did get some more new girls.
So let's get down to brass tacks on the poker then, because, I mean, why is it such a man's game? I have my guesses. Let me hear what yours are, and I'll see if they're the same. Or do you want me to go first?
I don't care.
Okay, let me hear yours.
Okay, well, I think that on one level, right? I'm sure there are many, and I'm sure that there are some that I don't even think about. But women aren't really supposed to be aggressive, and we're not supposed to push back at guys. I mean, this is a general, right? This is a general kind of a thing. But in order to play poker and in order to win at poker, you have to be aggressive. So I think that there's that, and it's funny because it's not like it's so deep in our society that we don't even really recognize that we're not supposed to do that. You know what I mean? But when we were having these women's tournaments, we would have a smaller kind of tournament during the week. I think it was once or twice a week. Anyway, they played totally different than the guys. I mean, they just did. And these were poker players. These were not like some, Dreamsteam came in, for instance, and asked for some help to learn how to play. And that's totally different. I'm not talking about newbies. I'm talking about women who know how to play. And I had to kind of call, because I was trying to teach and trying to like promote the site and stuff like that. I had to stop being so aggressive because it was taking over the table. So I just think I think that's part of it. I think we're also not supposed to be good at math. I mean, At said it as a joke, but I know I got that message very clearly when I was going to school, that girls don't do well at math. So
it's funny because you talk about women having to be aggressive, and I want to ask about that. But before we get to that, Dreamsteam, I'm just like trying to picture her being aggressive, and that's like trying to picture a butterfly like being aggressive.
She's great. No, I mean, aggressive, not aggressive, whatever that is. Dream's theme is smart, and she likes to play, and so that's what she had.
She's driven, though. That girl's driven. She's got gumption. She's got grit.
She does. She does, and she didn't give up, and she kept asking questions. I mean, that's all the good ways that you learn how to do something,
I think you need to have grit in this game. And another thing, though, that I don't think you mentioned was that historically speaking and physiologically speaking, men tend to hold their emotions in a little better.
Mm-hmm.
And the women tend to be a little easier to read. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I think it's cool that women are expressive, generally speaking, more than men, and men have their way of communicating. And so in a game like poker, you have to have your poker face. And I'm going to tell you right now, I would lose every time.
Well, or you do like I do. And it's very different in a poker room. But when I was playing fairly regularly live, I took, because I don't know, like my face is right there so you can see. Like the stupidest, biggest stupid smile. People just think I'm daft. Like they just think that there's no brain behind there at all. And so I drink a few too many beers and I get all loud and ridiculous, and they're just like, oh, that girl does not know how to play. And then I win, and it's like, oh, you're bad.
That's so perfect. Okay, did you see what Cork wrote? I don't know if you're on the chat.
Okay, now if we're gonna get into boys versus girls situations,
no, we're not. But we do need to read what he said. He says women are easier to read. Said no man ever. I'm gonna tell you, my husband will agree with you on that. He can never figure me out. The poor guy.
Well, and that's true. But it's in our personal lives, fine, Cork, and that's different than when you're sitting on a poker table and you can't stop giggling because you have pocket aces. Like there's a different kind of read there.
I think that's exactly what I'm talking about. And so when you're at a table, you got to be able to hold your giggles in when you have a pocket of aces. And you got to be able to bluff. And you got to be able to know, you got to know when to hold them. Oh, I totally should have had Kenny Rogers, except that we would have been booted off the server. Twitch would.
Great song, by the way.
Twitch be like, what? You're playing a royalty not free song? You're booted.
Right?
And then I get a message from Cork saying, what the hell? Why are you playing Kenny Rogers? Does Beth really giggle all the time?
We gotta read this. Am I too loud? I just reset up my mic. Is it everything okay?
That's you just went a touch too loud. Maybe 1 or 2 notches down.
Well, because Sir Cork said boobs, and so I wanted to read it.
He said boobs?
What? He said boobs. He writes. I'm going to go out on a limb here and suggest boobs are like a force field of confusion that leaves us unable to intercept your signals.
Oh my gosh. I don't think that was much of a limb, actually, because that's Cork's favorite word. Cork's favorite word is boobs. He's like, I have more boobs on my station than anyone else.
Oh my god. Well, look, it's not our fault that y'all can't stop looking at boobs. Like that's not my business, okay? I'm up here, okay?
Like, did you guys, I don't know if anybody heard this one. This brings us back, Cork. Remember when we did that? Of course you remember. We actually talked about it. But where's Carrie Allen? I should have warned her we were having a show today, freak. Where's she? Dude. So she does this Space Carrie's Adventures in Space. And she did this. Her husband writes the script, Chris. And they did this episode where Captain Cork's and Space Carrie's heads got swapped in like a time warp or something. I can't remember what it was called. But anyway, and I was on that episode as Lydia, the robot, the database. And so Cork and Carrie's heads get swapped, and the text, the script was something like, Carrie is on his body and then he's on hers, and her script was something like, quit looking at those and quit touching those are mine. And he loved it. Their heads got swapped.
Boy, boobs. You're obsessed with boobs.
It was a
that's
teleporter.
Not, you know?
I never could get it because, like, boobs are gorgeous. I'm not gonna lie. Like, if I was a boy, I'd be obsessed too. In fact, I'm a girl and I'm obsessed with them. And I don't even I'm not, like, gay. I'm pretty sure I'm fully heterosexual. But I don't know.
I'm gay for boobs.
I'm gay for boobs.
Yeah, I'm totally gay for boobs.
I'm boobs gay. I'm totally boobs gay.
That's gotta be a thing, right?
I think it's a thing. It's a thing when Beth says it's a thing. Captain Cork is like, they're so hypnotizing. Oh, okay, but didn't we agree that, like, if we had to be sister wives, right?
Right, forced.
I was like, man, I was telling my husband, I'm like, husband dearest, I need a sister wife. You can't have her, but I need one. How did we work it out? It was like, we need to have someone who can manage the kids.
Oh, well, I don't know if we should say, but there was definitely someone, wife we like, and we figured that she's probably very clean, so we were like, we should get her a
I don't know if we should. I don't know if we should say. I don't think we'll say. I don't think we'll say who it was. Maybe we'll divulge that later to certain parties. But yeah, I feel like we're sister wives if there was a such thing. But see, I'd be the sister wife who was like, I'm gonna go steam all day. And
exactly. I'm busy. I'm gonna be playing poker.
Yeah, you play poker. I'm gonna go do my interviews. Okay, so speaking of Steam It, back to Steam It.
Okay.
So you and Marky Mark, how did you start getting involved with him, and what are you guys doing right now?
Oh God, that's kind of a fun story. So, this is back. This is last year. So I joined I'm a year old this month. But let's say around July, I met a couple of guys playing poker. We have a team up thing, and so I got distracted by tits. Okay,
no worries.
I'm not gonna tell them if I need to address any of that. So anyway, so we had this team up, and we have these team up seasons where you get 2 other people to a team. And then once a week we have a big 50 SBD tournament, and the teammates are all supposed to play that day. Depending on how each teammate finishes, they get X amount of points. And then at the end of the season, it's 8 weeks. At the end of the season, the team with the most amount of points is the winner. And so I teamed up with these 2 guys, and we started talking about creating our own casino. So we went down that path for a while, and we ended up breaking up. I don't know how else to say it.
Right.
But one teammate and I are still very good friends, but the other one kind of decided to do his own thing in a very kind of gross way. So he was no longer there. During that time, we were... Have you ever heard of the whale tank with Fuzzy and whale shares and that whole thing?
Yeah, I've heard of it, but
they do it anymore.
I'm not up on it, but yeah, I've heard of it.
Okay, so we were going there to see if we could get some funding for this casino. While there, Marky Mark, he was just starting too, and he started talking about it. And this teammate that, turned out not to be a very good teammate, kind of attached himself to Marky as well, and worked Curation Digest and that kind of thing. Well, as not good people tend to do, he kind of screwed the Marky Mark as well. And so my partner Nick and I both kind of jumped on to help Marky with the Curation Digest because it had been left by that guy. You know what I mean?
Got it.
Because I think the Curation Digest is a really, it's the best thing about his bot, obviously.
And I think, anecdotally speaking, though, I think it just goes to show that even well-meaning people, we can kind of be misguided. And furthermore, if you're heading up an organization that is meant to benefit others, just like Dream Steam and I have talked about, that there's going to be people who just kind of want to capitalize on that in a negative way. And then it turns it into something that it isn't. And so One of the things that I've noticed about you is that whatever you touch kind of just does turn to gold. Like, there is this level of integrity in everything you do. Like, you really do sell your kind of yourself to these things. You're just super dedicated. Everything it is what you want it to be, or at least that's what you strive to do. And that's kind of what I liked about what you're doing with Marky Mark. So you go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
No, and that's super sweet and kind. I really appreciate that. Part of the reason, hold on, I gotta roll my eyes at ads there. There we go. Okay. Part of the reason
hold on, I gotta roll my eyes at ads. And actually, did you see earlier? He said the Bethy and Becky giggling hour. Like, oh my gosh, stupid.
He's so lucky. I love him. Anyway. So the reason I got on Steam It, and specifically SBL, but Steam It at all, was because I, like so many other moms, had gotten to a point in my life where I didn't like anything anymore. I didn't have a hobby. I had been, don't judge me. Oh God, I'm going to get it for this one. I had been PTA president for like 3.5 years. I had done all of these really intense things to make sure that my kids were having the greatest opportunities in life and everything.
No way. You know what? I know it's kind of a cheesy thing to say you're PTA president, but frankly, I have the he said shit. I'm sorry, I was about to get sentimental, and then and then Ats is like, PTA president, what a loser.
I'm like blushing so wildly right now. I know it's ridiculous, but like,
you're such a loser, Beth. You're trying to make your kids' lives better. You suck.
How stupid.
You're so stupid. I'm judging you. No, I think that's awesome. You know, kids come first. So, but like, the thing about kids is when they come. And let this be a warning to all those who may or may not be having children soon. They're the best and the worst of you. So yeah, you're gonna sacrifice a lot, but just don't be surprised if you're the PTA president.
All of a sudden, you wake up one day and you're sorry, holy criminy! How did that just happen?
What just happened?
I mean, and it well, being PTA president, it was like looking at
I know, it's true.
It really was like I went to. I have like my background in work, my background in life is philanthropic and nonprofits, and that's what I do. And I can run a meeting. I know what boards are, And so when I went to the PTA meeting, and the then president kind of had a nervous breakdown and ghosted, everybody looked at me like, okay, so now what? And it just was like,
what are we gonna do now?
And I had the principal, see my mouth. The principal was like, well, if you don't do this, the whole PTA is going to shut down. And it's like, what am I supposed to do with that? That isn't fair at all.
I know that totes happened to me last year. No, 2 years ago. Listen to this, okay? So my husband was living in Canada because he was getting his green card, and we were kind of doing this back and forth long distance crap. So I don't want to get into that. But I was single momming it. I had 3 kids, and 2 of them are from a previous marriage. But we had a child together who was like 2 at the time. And my 2 older girls were in soccer. And I'm like, soccer, great, we'll do soccer. And I'm like, we'll take him to practice. And then it was AYSO, which is like a kind of generic soccer league. And so we get the one kid in soccer, and she's going to practices, and then the other one, they don't have a coach. They don't have a coach. They don't have a coach. They don't have a ref. They don't have a ref. And then we're getting these emails. We're like inundated. We're short a coach. We need a coach, or you're not going to have a team. And then they finally said, okay, we found a coach, so come to the first practice. So we all show up, and joke's on you, they didn't have a coach. They said, one of you guys is going to be the coach. And I'm the kind of person that's going to be like, I'll do it. But I actually couldn't. I couldn't that year because I can't remember what was going on, but I actually could not do it. It was I know why. Because I had this 2-year-old who was crazy, and then I had another kid who was in soccer, and I was going back and forth, and I was single mom in it, and I was working. I was so tired. So I'm like, I am not going to put that extra stress on myself, because then it will really eat into my like time with my kids and myself and my health. So I just put my hand up and I go, I'm not going to do it. I just got to tell you all, I'm not going to do it, but I'll show up when there's practice. And you want to know what happened? I kid you not. This is how it went. Someone goes, well, why aren't you? And I'm like, I got a list of reasons. And then I made the mistake of listing my reasons why I would not be the coach. And do you know why that was a mistake? Because then everybody else there was like, oh, well, we can help with that. So someone's like, I'll babysit your kid. No, that's what happened. So then Cody was like, I'll babysit your kid. And I was like, And then this other girl named Becky, she's like, I'll put the team roster together. I'll handle the emails. And then someone else goes, I'll be your assistant coach on the sidelines. And I'm like, And then my daughter was right there and she's like yanking on me. Oh, mommy, please can you be my coach? And I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I ended up coaching and we were a rocking team. It was
That's awesome.
It was really fun. It was fun. And now I'm like totally part of the clan and I do it every year.
Oh my gosh. They sucked you all the way in.
They sucked me in!
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
It's true.
They can smell it on us. I don't know what it is, but they're like, oh, that one right there.
Well, you know what it is? I think what they see is like I try to look shifty and like I don't care and like not make eye contact. I try to be that person who's like, oh, don't look at me. I don't matter. But
Right.
I try as I might. Probably the worst example of person trying to hide would be me. Like, oh, I don't care about that. That's no biggie. But no, every time they're like, oh, she can do it. So I really, like, I have to really try hard to set my boundaries or I turn into like, yeah, you just spread yourself thin.
Yeah, absolutely. I had to take, like, I told them this year that I was doing nothing. Like, and then I actually did nothing. And they were really shocked.
They're like, what? You're not allowed to do nothing.
No. I cannot. It sucked the life right out of me. I mean, because, I care. And so it took just the same way I have attacked SPL and Steam It. I do that. I guess I tend to do that. So like, I don't, moderation is not in my book. That's not a part of what I do.
What does moderation mean? I've never heard of that.
I have no idea. Somebody said I should do it. I was like, what? And
because that's my problem is I don't do anything half-assed. Like I'm like whole hog. So I have to really pace myself. I get kind of going. I chomp at the bit. I'm like, we're going to do this. And I can sustain that pace as long as I stay like keeping focused on certain things. I can go till I die. But I got to make sure I get my sleeps and my foods. See this here? This is what you call a protein drink. But okay. So you were talking about some of the philanthropic stuff you do. Let me just interject here and let everybody know we're 10 minutes to the hour. And this is the Dear Little Scribe show. We're interviewing Bethalea, not Bethalia. For those of you who thought that it was Leah like me, you're all wrong. It's Bethalea. And so you were telling me something about this thing that you and your husband are doing. It's like a equestrian.
Now, which husband are we talking about? Like, I know you've been confused about that before.
That's so funny. I totally thought you and help me out. I'm blinking. Tuck.
We're married.
Oh my god. You know why I thought that? I was like, why did I think that? And I remember, and I can remember now. It was like a year ago or something, and I saw this post that other one of you wrote about the dog, Puck, and that it was your shared dog. And then I'm like, oh, it's named Puck, kind of like Tuck, so they must be married. Like, I just thought, oh, they're married. And then, yeah, it's very logical. And I totally thought you were married. And then when I was making the announcement for the show, I was like, Bethalea will be one of our guests. And then I made some joke about you being married to Tuck.
Right.
And then I got all this like throwback, like, woohoo! Does Tuck know?
Yeah. The Discord channel was out of, they were insane. It was because they all know who I'm married to. They were like, lie to us. Oh God.
Yeah, I think I got some
It's
extra
so
votes for
funny.
I got some extra votes for that. But didn't so tell us how you found. Okay, we're gonna go into the thing you do with your actual real husband, the equestrian thing. But really
I
quick,
thought this is a PG show.
oh my god.
But no, actually, he doesn't have anything to do with my philanthropies that I do now. I have a job, a part-time job, and I work with a youth development program here in Los Angeles that serves under-resourced girls ages 8 to 18 in an equestrian and urban farm environment. It's pretty cool. So,
Oh, I thought that was like a joint team effort with you and your husband,
Yeah.
not Tuck, but whatever your husband's name is.
hashtag not Tuck.
Hashtag not Tuck. Oh my gosh. Okay, so wait a minute. So then he's not doing that with you.
My husband, no, is not doing that with me. No,
Oh,
that's my
okay.
job. So we have, our eldest daughter has had anxiety since she, came to this earth. Like, she just is an anxious little ball of, oh my God, this poor little thing. She's also like a type A person. Like, I don't know where she came from, but she looks a little like me, so she's mine.
You're like pretty sure she's yours, but you had to do a double take there for a minute.
Yeah. So anyway, as she got older, her anxiety really started to get very focused on animals, so much so that she couldn't walk down the street if there was a dog on the opposite side of the street on a leash with their person. Like,
Yeah.
could not hide behind me, the whole thing. And so once it really started to affect her life and her ability to have fun, we did therapy, we were talking about vacation, but all of the research I found said equine therapy and pet therapy. And I live in a crappy apartment. We don't have any money. And so how in the world am I going to do that? But a friend of mine had heard about my nonprofit. It's called Taking the Reins. And she said, check them out. They're super sweet. So I did. She's been going there for a little bit over a year. I started by volunteering because I couldn't really pay. And so they let me volunteer. And then I just kind of forced them to hire me. I don't know. And
You're
so
like, you will hire me.
I was like, I'm not leaving. So might as well find something for me to do.
Yeah, I've done that before. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, and anyway, I used to have to be in her classroom up to 3 to 4 times a week because she had panic attacks and stuff like that. And I have not been in at all this year.
Oh,
So,
sad face, but happy face
Yeah.
now. That's amazing. So
Yeah.
you're saying that the horses and animals have really helped her.
it just is the way. Yeah, it's not a therapy program. If you like horses or animals or gardening, then you have to do X, Y, and Z in order to be a part of the program. And so part of that is hard work and learning how to bridle and all of those things. And she had a really hard time at first, but she just kept persevering and kept wanting to go. And it just, one of the days we went to school, started to get that kind of pre-panic attack phase.
Yeah.
She has. And I was trying to talk her through it. Nothing was working. And we almost to school said, did you learn how to bridle dance? Dance is an Arabian. He's super mouthy, acts like he's going to take your head off at any moment. And she looked at me and she kind of, yeah. And I said, you're telling me you're nervous about a math test right now? And she laughed and went to school. It would never have happened.
That is a really cool story. And I think actually that she could get it on like an abstract level like that and drive it home in a like more literal way.
Yeah.
That's really
And
cool.
She was able to see that this isn't actually terrifying. I'm a little, anxious about it, but I'm not actually in harm's way here. So it was
She's
good.
like, wait a minute, what you're saying is I'm being absurd.
I'm
Which
being a little ridiculous.
I mean,
okay.
and to be fair, and I'm sure you know, anxiety is a disorder that is not just thought fixed. Like you can't just like fix it, but you kind of you can have an impact on your anxiety in a thought way. And
absolutely.
so I think that that's really good.
I don't know why. Like I don't know why it worked, but it did.
That is really cool.
My kid in this position, so I'm really glad to be able to help them out and work with them.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like you're coming in and out. So if there's something you are aware of,
sorry.
I don't know if it could just be the server. I also, what about Puck? Can you tell us you lost your dog and how you found him?
Oh my God. So Puck, yes. Puck is a rescue dog we rescued in December. And we were able to rescue her. The reason I named her Puck Fuzzy Cats, which is absolutely a play on Puck Feeman.
Yes, right? Yes, that's another thing.
So you weren't wrong. You weren't wrong about that. So we named her Puck Fuzzy Cats because of my work here on Steam It, I've been able to increase our family's income a little bit, and we were able to get a dog. So I felt like it was kind of fun. And then I post about her on the SPL blog and stuff like that. So she's kind of she's our little mascot. And she got out and ran away and was gone for the next 5 days. We plastered.
It was so sad, everybody. Puck is posters. I feel like Puck is the Steam It mascot. And by the way, everyone, Darren Claxton, I semi-promised that I might be able to squeeze him in. So maybe what we'll do is end on a like Darren Claxton note. But yeah, so Beth went around, and how did you find him? You went and talked to like homeless people.
We ended up talking, and 2 of them had seen her in the last year. So we posted up at the park, and then the next day got a phone call from up the street, and she had been seen running into a garage, and we went, and bam, there she was.
I love the story. It's so good. I think you should post the link of the story. I love to go into it a little more, but I want to give like 2 squeaky little minutes to Darren.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey Darren, are you gonna pop on and talk to us in your British? Notice how I call it British and not English. I don't know if he's here. Hey, so Darren has some original music that he plays. I try to get him on once in a while. In the control booth, we have like literally 1 minute left. You want to go in the control booth?
To the left.
To the left. To the left.
To the left.
To the right. To the right. I don't know if he's gonna make it, guys, but let me see if I can find something to play on my iTunes, because I have some Darren on my iTunes. Let's wrap up with that. Here we go. Let's see if he's in here.
There you go.
And
there's my Puck. Found the Puck posts.
Okay. Oh, good. You posted that then?
Yeah, I put it in the chat. It's old, but it's a cute story. And look at that face.
It is so cute. And you guys go read it. It's so sweet. We need our Puck. Puck's our Steam It mascot. I'm going to play Simple Life by Darren Claxton. We'll just end on that note. Guys, it's been an awesome show. Great crowd.
Thank you, Little Scribe.
Thanks for coming back. It was a blast. Come back next week.
Anytime.
And we're gonna do a witness showdown. So stay tuned for that, guys, and we'll catch you later.